South Korea's exports topped $100 billion for the first time ever last month, fueled by a record-breaking surge in semiconductor shipments amid a booming memory chip market. The race to find survivors in Venezuela is becoming increasingly difficult as the death toll from last week's twin earthquake surpasses 1,900, even as rare rescues continue to offer moments of hope. Reports say the U.S. and Iran are set to resume indirect talks in Qatar as both sides seek to build on recent progress toward a permanent end to the conflict. South Korea's June exports topped $100 billion for the first time, reaching a record high and making the country only the fourth in the world to achieve the feat. Our Lee Ju-yeon leads us tonight.
Korea's June export hit a new all-time high, topping $100 billion for the first time. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources said Wednesday that June exports surged roughly 71% from a year earlier to $102.25 billion. That makes Korea only the fourth country to record more than $100 billion in exports in a single month, after Germany, China, and the United States. Exports increased in 18 of the 20 major categories in June, with semiconductor leading the overall growth. Semiconductor exports surged roughly 200% from a year earlier to $44.8 billion. Beating the previous record set in May, monthly chip exports topped $40 billion for the first time. Strong demand for memory chips pushed up contract prices, helping fuel Korea's export surge. Experts say the key question now is whether those high prices can hold.
There's plenty of chance that the memory prices will stay high level until the end of 2026. And in that case, I think export value will stay very high throughout 2026.
The strong momentum has raised hopes that Korea's annual exports could reach $1 trillion this year, with the government expressing optimism about the target.
We see a much stronger chance of reaching the $1 trillion milestone now than we did back in May. Exports tend to gather more momentum in the second half of the year than the first, which underpins our positive outlook.
Meanwhile, imports rose 30% from a year earlier, but Korea still posted a record trade surplus of more than $30 billion in June. Still, the government warned that uncertainties remain, including chip price movements, volatility in global oil markets, and growing protectionist measures. Officials said they will work closely with key trading partners to reduce risk for Korean exporters and help remain a stable export environment. Lee Ju-yeon, Arirang News.
The global AI boom is lifting South Korea's economic outlook, with some forecasts now topping 4% growth this year. And the Bank of Korea is expected to follow with a higher projection next month. Kim Do-yeon reports.
Korea's economy is getting a major boost from the global AI boom, with rising demand for memory chips pushing growth forecasts higher. Some institutions now expect growth to top 4%. The Bank of Korea's current forecast is 2.6%, but that figure could be revised upward in August as exports continue to break records. The upward revisions are coming from a growing number of major financial institutions. According to Yonhap News Agency citing Bloomberg data, 11 domestic and international firms now expect Korea's economy to grow by at least 3% this year. South Korean reinsurer Korean Re issued the highest forecast at 4.1%, followed by UK-based Capital Economics at 4.0%. Global investment banks and research firms, including JP Morgan, IM Securities, and Citi, have also raised their outlooks into the mid to high 3% range. Growth above 4% would put Korea clearly ahead of current global projections. The International Monetary Fund forecasts global growth of 3.1% this year, while the World Bank expects just 2.5%. Experts say that kind of performance would have been difficult to imagine earlier in the year before the AI-led tech boom accelerated at such speed.
Fundamentally, no one predicted that AI data center construction would be this intense, or that semiconductor prices would jump 3 to 4 times compared to 2 years ago. Memory semiconductors became an immediate bottleneck, creating a severe shortage that rarely happens, meaning institutions simply could not forecast this at the start of the year.
Following an upward revision in the first quarter, GDP growth to 1.8%, Bank of Korea Governor Han Seong-sook said last month that the central bank's current 2.6% forecast is likely to be raised. Such a move would bring the BOK more in line with private sector forecasts as exports and AI-driven chip demand continue to support stronger growth. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
U.S. and Iranian officials are expected to hold indirect technical talks in Doha as both sides work through the details of a deal aimed at ending the war. But Tehran insists that direct talks are not on the table for now. Kim So-young has the latest.
U.S. and Iranian officials are set to hold indirect working-level talks with mediators in Doha on Wednesday, aimed at implementing the Memorandum of Understanding. But Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will not take part in this round. The two met with Qatar's Prime Minister on Tuesday, but will not attend Wednesday's technical talks. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesperson said they will instead meet with Qatari mediators while in Doha. The clarification came after Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson pushed back on suggestions of a broader meeting.
Although talks in Doha are expected to take place tomorrow, they will focus on implementing the provisions of the Memorandum of Understanding, including the clause concerning the release of Iran's restricted assets. No meeting at any level with the American side has been scheduled.
The comments followed remarks by Iran's chief negotiator and parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who laid down a marker of his own in a state television interview. Ghalibaf reaffirmed that toll-free passage through the Strait of Hormuz is guaranteed only for 60 days under the Memorandum of Understanding, describing it as a temporary window for vessels stranded during the wartime blockade. After that, he warned Tehran would begin charging ships under international law, while insisting that Iran and Oman hold sovereignty over the strait. He said Iran would never give up what it considered its rights over its territorial waters. The UN's International Maritime Organization has rejected the idea. IMO's Secretary General Arsenio Dominguez said mandatory tolls that undermine free navigation through the Strait of Hormuz would violate international law. Instead, he suggested a voluntary funding system to support maritime safety in the waterway. For now, all eyes are on Doha, where Wednesday's technical talks could decide whether this fragile ceasefire holds. Kim So-young, Arirang News.
The desperate search for survivors continues in Venezuela, with the death toll from the devastating earthquakes now nearing 2,000. Our Kim Bo-kyung has more.
The Venezuelan resident has spent days searching the ruins of a collapsed apartment building, hoping to find family members trapped beneath the debris after two powerful earthquakes struck the country.
My faith is still intact that I am going to get my family out and I am going to get the people we need to get out, and we are going to keep at it.
Then early Tuesday came a rare moment of hope. A 3-year-old boy, Kleber Moran, was pulled alive from the rubble in the hard-hit coastal state of La Guaira after spending 6 days trapped beneath the debris. Officials said he was the only reported survivor found that day. He was taken to hospital for treatment. The rescue came against a backdrop of widespread destruction. According to NASA estimates, some 59,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed by the twin earthquakes, which struck just seconds apart with magnitudes of 7.2 and 7.5. In the aftermath of the quakes, Venezuelan National Assembly President Jorge Rodriguez said at least 1,943 people had died.
As of today, 1943 people have been counted among the dead. The number of injured has reached 10,571. So far, we have 15,866 people left homeless.
With search and rescue efforts now shifting toward a wider humanitarian response, the World Food Program is appealing for $50 million to help feed up to 500,000 people in Venezuela over the next 3 months.
I think the budget we have now will definitely not cover the whole of the disaster. That is why WFP issued an initial appeal of $50 million to begin to cover and assess for the first 3 months all the needs of the populations that will require food assistance in different modalities.
The head of the UN agency in Venezuela said the earthquakes have further weakened an already vulnerable population. That, he said, is why the World Food Program is calling for sustained support from the start to help prevent families from falling into a prolonged cycle of food insecurity. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Korea has been broadening its diplomatic outreach while placing renewed emphasis on multilateral cooperation. And at this year's Jeju Forum, Arirang News spoke exclusively with candidates seeking to lead the UN, as well as senior European diplomats, to hear what they see how they see the international order evolving and where Korea fits into it. Our foreign affairs correspondent Oh Soo-young, who led our coverage, joins us in the studio today. Welcome, Soo-young.
Hi, Tammy.
So, Soo-young, you interviewed several candidates looking to become the next UN Secretary General. What stood out?
Well, what struck me most about this entire coverage was how the candidates really, each and every one of them, really cut to the central theme of this year's Jeju Forum, which was all about reinventing cooperation. And they're very much candid in acknowledging that today's multilateral system is under strain.
The first is for the UN to be back at the table. Because when you go around, and I have been traveling a lot and talking to a lot of people, what you find is that people ask you, where is the UN?
As Secretary General, one of the first missions will be to implement this reform on 2 levels. First, at the level of the Secretariat and of the United Nations itself. How can we optimize its functioning? How can we also rationalize its resources and its missions? The second level is with the member states.
Taken together, the debate is no longer just whether the UN should change, but how it can remain effective.
Then, Soo-young, how does that tie into Korea's own diplomacy?
Well, I would say that it really ties in through Korea's own trajectory demonstrated over the years, according to the former Senegalese president that we just heard from. He pointed to Korea's development experience, industrial capacity and ability to work with both advanced economies and the global south as well.
Korea showed that underdevelopment is not inevitable. It went from receiving aid to becoming a donor country, a member of the OECD and the G20. The Korean example can inspire the world, particularly African countries. As president of Senegal, I worked extensively with Korea on economic cooperation, in the maritime sector, in the military and security fields, in agriculture, rice production, and in healthcare.
And at this point in time, the Lee Jae-myung administration has been broadening its scope of partners beyond traditional relationships focused on the Korean Peninsula and tackling the North Korean nuclear issue. It has also been keen to act as a G7+ country in promoting multilateral cooperation as a responsible stakeholder in global governance. Now, that, I think, was pretty much reflected in my interview with the Czech ambassador to Korea.
What is important, is having, a cooperation of the countries, which are aiming at preserving peace and stability, international order, and, following the international law. And I think, in those areas, Korean Republic, the Czechia, and, the European Union are great examples of those values, which we are sharing.
Now, Soo-young, before I let you go, any noteworthy ideas from your interviewees in Jeju?
Well, I'd say that there are plenty to draw from. I mean, many of my interviews highlighted opportunities to move from verbal diplomatic alignment to real, actual practical cooperation. France's Indo-Pacific ambassador, for instance, pointed to defense, interoperability, intelligence sharing and industrial technology.
We will see again in September when the Korean president is coming to a state visit to Paris. That we work on very concrete things like interoperability, intelligence sharing. We talk about also, we are two countries that are very much involved into industrial and technological base, so we also share that ambition to be very, very good partners and more integrated partners.
The Czech ambassador also pointed to important areas where Korea and Europe can do more together.
So we are not having only the bilateral track, cooperation between ourselves, but we as well having here multilateral track within the European Union, and that means, that if the relations goes well between Korea and the European Union, they go as well very good, for Czechia. But we can do some added value, to that, and it means, you can have some niches on the market, which actually we can have a more cooperation, which will be interesting for both sides, mentioning nuclear energy, automotive industry, I would say science and research development, this is, those areas, where we can cooperate,
All of this is, of course, just a small snapshot of the ideas shared at this year's edition of Jeju Forum, which brought together over 6,000 participants in just 3 days.
Indeed. Soo-young, thank you for your coverage and for your wrap-up tonight.
Great to be here, Tammy.
President Lee Jae-myung has vowed to shift away from the current state of armistice towards a peace regime for the future of Korea. Speaking at a meeting with the Peaceful Unification Advisory Council on Wednesday in Incheon, the president said he will continue to knock on the door that's been firmly closed by North Korea. He added that he will resume action for his peace drive, reiterating that he does not seek reunification by absorption and will not engage in any hostile acts. About 1,400 council members from Eurasia joined the Presidential Advisory Panel meeting, either in person or virtually. And Prime Minister Han Seong-sook began her term on Wednesday after receiving her certificate of appointment from President Lee Jae-myung at the Blue House earlier in the morning. Speaking to reporters on her way to work, she pledged to streamline the administration's policy-making progress and take bolder steps in AI investment. She also vowed to improve the lives of young people and small business owners. And in the afternoon, Han paid her respects at the Seoul National Cemetery before chairing a meeting on AI innovation with relevant ministries. Defense Minister Ang Kyu-baek emphasized the need to consolidate South Korea's military academies into a single educational institution, while stressing that the unique expertise of each service branch, the Army, the Navy, and Air Force, must be preserved. But he added that those differences should not become barriers between them. An made the remarks during the top commanders meeting for the first half of this year on Wednesday. Now, the comments come as the Defense Ministry faces a pushback from the service branches over a reform plan to establish a tentatively named National Military Academy. Now, the new institution would integrate cadet selection for the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and also reiterated the importance of transferring wartime operational control, saying a military that cannot make its own decisions cannot become a strong military. Summer, the season of festivals, is here in Korea. And just as Germany has the Oktoberfest, Korea has the Chimac festival, which kicked off in Daegu City today. Our Hong Seo-jung is there live. Seo-jung, what's it like there now?
Yes, Dami, I'm here at Duty Park in Daegu, where the 2026 Chimac Festival got underway today. Although it's a Wednesday evening, the venue is already packed with visitors. The upbeat music, Chimac, or fried chicken and beer, and spectacular water shows are helping add to the festival atmosphere. Chimac, the beloved pairing of fried chicken and 맥주 or beer, is a go-to comfort food for many in Korea and an especially popular choice during the summer. The city of Daegu is located in the southern part of Korea and is hotter than Seoul. So local residents and visitors from all over are here to beat the summer heat with fried chicken and cold beer.
Just being outside, enjoying cold beer and fried chicken, watching performances, dancing, getting splashed with water, it's just so much fun.
I came here to make memories with my family. Since we don't get to spend much time together, it was nice to enjoy some food and have fun as a family.
It's great. I like the chicken and the beer. The sound is good and I like the slightly old songs.
Well, it certainly looks like there is plenty of excitement. Sajang, what are some of the festival's biggest attractions or even activities?
Well, EDM parties and beer pong are definitely my favorites, but of course, countless beer and chicken stalls offer something for every single taste. And at least 1 million people came all the way here, similar to last year's attendance. More events, including water concerts and chicken eating competitions, are scheduled throughout the festival, which runs through this Sunday. That's all I have for now. Back to you in the studio.
Alrighty, Sajang, thank you for the coverage. Now, in other news, young farmers are embracing smart technology to transform agriculture in South Korea, using data and digital tools to boost efficiency while reducing cost and labor. Our Baek Joo-hee tells us more.
In a rural town in Gimhae, a young man monitors his cow's health with a new data app, breaking away from traditional hands-on livestock observation.
The device analyzes individual data and sends it straight to my smartphone. It essentially allows us to monitor and manage the health and condition of each individual cow.
This farm has adopted other technology such as microbial feed incubator and a mass feed production machine. These tools automatically brew nutritional bulk manufactured feed, significantly cutting costs and labor.
As soon as I started working in the farm, I started digitizing our operations. I chose this approach to minimize losses for each individual cow.
With a foundation scholarship, this young farmer has successfully settled into the industry over 3 years. In fact, government agencies, experts, and local farmers alike are increasingly recognizing the vital importance of nurturing the next generation of farmers.
The way young people work is completely different. Our generation only knew how to feed the cattle. We didn't know anything about fermenting or cultivating microbes.
But despite efforts to encourage young farmers, recent statistics reveal a contrasting reality. While the total number of farm households marked a 20% rebound last year, a closer look reveals a critical demographic gap. The share of farm owners aged 49 and under has plummeted from 17.9% to 5.5% over the last 2 decades. With a decreasing number of young farmers, there is a growing demand for more practical solutions.
Our policies must focus on local needs, letting communities request the workforce they require, training customized talents for that demand, and ultimately helping them settle down in the region permanently.
Experts suggest providing hands-on experience and local connections to help new farmers launch their business. Beyond opening doors for more young people to enter farming, Korean agriculture needs a long-term infrastructure and practical support for it to thrive in the future. Baek Joo-hee, Arirang News, Gimhae.
This year's monsoon season got off to a late start. After reaching Jeju Island and the southern regions yesterday, the rain spread into the central regions today. In fact, the monsoon season arrived 6 days later than average in the central regions. The seasonal rain front will briefly shift south tomorrow before moving north again on Friday, bringing rain back to Jeju Island and the southern regions. Tomorrow, temperatures will climb back to around 30 degrees Celsius across most of the country, and afternoon showers are expected to pop up in many areas. Rainfall amounts will range from 5 to 60 millimeters, so you want to leave home with an umbrella. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 22 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon 19, Busan 20 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 31 degrees, Daegu 30, Jeju 26 degrees. Looking ahead, the rain front is expected to spread across the country on Monday, bringing another round of monsoon rain nationwide. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That's all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.